Welcome back to another episode of the Hodge-Cast podcast. There's a lot of uncertainty within the UK. I mean, you'd have to be living under a rock to not see some of the headlines, particularly involving migration, Kier Starmer, politics. And there's also a lot of criticism around certain societies, certain ethnic groups, certain religions. So today I want to try and unpack that to both educate and give more of a broader understanding, not just about the UK, but as wider geopolitics as a whole. So I'm in good company to have this conversation as I'm joined by Younes Sadaghiani. Welcome to the show, Younes.
Thanks,
nice to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
So you travelled up from London and you stayed the night. How are you finding Liverpool?
Great, actually. I went out with my friend last night. We went to a Persian restaurant. I wasn't expecting you guys to have a Persian restaurant in Liverpool, but it was a very nice one. I actually recommend it. And then we went for a couple of drinks, and I was back in my hotel by 10 p.m.
I was going to say, you look very fresh, and as you people who are watching on YouTube can see, you've dressed for the occasion. I feel quite underdressed.
I had to respect the red Liverpool. You know, the red Liverpool.
Yeah.
Premier League champions. I have to wear red at the end of the day. I'm a Chelsea fan, but you know.
Well, there you go. So you took a hit there.
Exactly.
So we normally ask an icebreaker question, which I am going to ask you that, but I just feel for maybe the listeners who don't know, who've never heard of you before, give a kind of little whistle-stop tour of your bio, if you will. Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I'm a political analyst, and I basically studied politics in university. I've done many different kinds of jobs, but I always had a passion for politics. I also have a background in media. Like, I've done a bit of acting before, I've done a bit of modeling before, but I never really liked to pretend to be someone else in front of the camera. And then I just got the idea of 2 or 3 years ago. I was like, why don't I combine my educational background with my media background? And then I just started making videos online, and then maybe within a month or two my videos went viral, and then after that within a few months I was on TV, and I just basically started growing it, and now I have different opportunities like the one I'm on your show right now.
No, it's interesting because obviously I stumbled across you from the Dozen podcast with Liam Tufts, and then I kind of did my due diligence and had a look, and I thought I want to reach out, and you kind of give us the courtesy responding, and here we are. How short amount of time you've kind of been out there, but yet you've done so much, and also the way you kind of articulate and dignify and hold yourself. It's almost like you're a veteran in this field. But I suppose that's testament to yourself.
Thank you. Well, I say you should always do what you love, and if you do what you love, you will naturally be good at it. You know, and I don't think I've met anyone that's successful at what they do if they're not obsessed with it and if they don't love it. The reason why I speak about things so well is because I do a lot of research, because I'm obsessively reading, obsessively watching podcasts, obsessively watching the news, because I'm obsessed. You know, and I don't think you can be successful if you're not obsessed, no matter what you do in life. Even if you're a doctor or a lawyer, you have to be obsessed with your profession. So maybe that's why. But then the thing is, people think like I just, got on camera and I started talking I've had these ideas for 10 or 15 years. Like, they've been marinating in the back of my mind for 10 or 15 years. And maybe finally I had the courage to, say it in front of the camera 2 years ago. But it's not like I woke up one morning and said, let me make videos. It didn't happen like that. I just, 10 or 15 years of research, and then one night I decided I'm going to do it, and I've done it.
Are you big on manifestation?
Big, very big, huge on manifestation. I manifest everything before it happens.
No, I'm a big advocate for that. Okay, so we've laid the foundations there. Okay. So our icebreaker question we ask every guest who comes on this show.
Sure.
What does challenge mean to Younes Sadaghiani?
What a great question. I think I like to challenge ideas. I like to challenge norms. I'm not the type of person that likes to be told what to do. So when someone says to me, worship this religion, I'm like, okay, why should I worship this religion? Like, give me reasons why. Or even like the structures of the family. Like, you should always listen to your parents, and you should always respect them. They love you, obviously, and they want the best for you. But, would you live the life that they lived? And the advice that they give you, is it really going to be beneficial to your future? Because I think you should only take advice from people that are in the position that you want to be in, right? So I'm just the type of person, and funnily enough, I've done this test the other day, now that you mentioned it. Have you heard of the Enneagram test?
The name rings a bell, but go on.
So Enneagram test is a psychological test that you do.
I have, but go on.
Yeah. And it gives you're one of 9 types, basically. And I've got type 8. And type 8, you know what's this called?
Go on.
The challenger.
All right, very apt.
Yeah, and I'm not even joking. And Donald Trump got the same one, apparently. Right. So I'm 8 wing 7. So I'm like a mixture between challenger and enthusiast. But, we're here to challenge norms. We're here to challenge power structures. We don't follow. We try to set the pace. You know, we try to carve our own path. And my favorite philosopher is called Friedrich Nietzsche. I have two favorite philosophers. One is called Rumi and one is called Nietzsche. And they're extremely different, by the way. One is Persian and one is all about spirituality and we're just part of God and we're just experiencing it in the physical realm, whereas Nietzsche is all about the physical realm. And he says he had a concept called the Superman. And the Superman says that one of the qualities of the Superman is that they don't ask themselves, what do others find desirable? They carve their own path. And I think that's what challenge means to me, to carve my own path in this world.
Awesome. And you've, as we said at the start, you've articulated that beautifully, Younes. You referenced the Donald. Of course, we are going to speak about him at length at some point during this interview. But kind of just want to, so a reference at the opening monologue there in relation to migration and people kind of stereotyping. And I feel as though everyone's got an opinion, but maybe people are educated, not just with qualifications, but with lived experience as well, which you tick both those boxes, I think it'd be fair to say. So kind of give us, I mean, I'm alluding to sort of with the migration, I'm alluding to kind of like the religious concepts, and at the moment it seems to be Islam and Islamists. Kind of give us like an overview of, because obviously being Persian from Iran, kind of give us a little bit, before we go into like the revolution or want to highlight that, kind of give us a bit of an overview of your experience, your time in Iran.
Well, Iran is a very beautiful country. I don't want people to confuse this. Iran is extremely beautiful and extremely rich, by the way. A lot of oil, a lot of gas. When I was growing up in Iran, I saw a reality where we had a beautiful country, but it was like living in a cage. What do I mean by that? It's like a mental cage that people are put in. And that's what goes back to your question of challenge. Like you go to school and they tell you certain things. Hate America, hate Israel. You know,
they teach that in school.
Wow. You know, Muhammad was the prophet, and they are Shiites, they're not Sunnis. So we have Imam Hussein or Imam Ali, and you know, in school we used to hit ourselves. It's like a Shiite tradition.
Sorry to think, just for the listeners who maybe aren't clued up, can you just give a brief what Shia
so Sunni and Shia are like two different sects of Islam. So it's like Orthodox and Catholic, for example, and Protestant. So in Islam we have Sunni, Shia, Sufism. Sunni is the original one that came with Muhammad, but then Shiaism came after Muhammad, where this guy called Ali kind of had a big sort of fight with this other guy called Yazid. And, you know, they were saying, no, he's the only prophet. And then he was like, no, I'm going to carry the name of the prophet. And then Shia and Sunnis have actually a very bloody history, funnily enough. Extremely bloody history. And it's funny because Iran is supporting Palestine and Shia is supporting Sunnis, but we're not going to get into that now. So they had extremely, extremely bloody history, to the point that Shiites were kicked out of Saudi Arabia, to the point they had to come and conquer Iran for them to survive. And that they kind of spread their poison that way. But basically they believe in the 12 Imam Shiaism. And they believe the last Imam, Imam Mahdi, is the one that's absent. And that's the one that's going to come back. Quite similar to the Christians, where they think Jesus Christ is going to come back. They think Imam Mahdi is going to come back. So they believe only in all these Imams. Ali, Hassan, Hussein, Reza, many. So yeah, that's the difference. They are more, I would say it's like a made up version of Islam, which is even worse than the original Islam. We have these sort of occasions, or I can't even call them occasions, whatever you want to call them, like religious dogma events that you basically have to hit yourself in Iran. Like hit yourself, like hit your head, like slap yourself. Some people even cut themselves. And that's to bleed for Imam Hussein. And Imam Hussein was someone that died not even in Iran, in Iraq, in a desert, because he lost the battle. And apparently the clouds were crying tears of blood for 40 days. And now because of that, the Shias around the world for 40 days have to hit themselves. It's ridiculous. So, yeah.
So it's obviously alluding to it's quite a dogmatic regime, as it were.
Exactly.
I mean, interestingly, I was at the barber's yesterday, and the guy who cuts my hair is Iranian, and he asked about the podcast. He asked what we're going to be speaking about, and I referenced this. And as soon as I mentioned the Ayatollah, it was almost like his whole demeanour was just like, don't mention him. And I just think, this is someone who's supposed to be the leader of the... I don't know, we could argue Kier Starmer's just, not many people find him very palatable. But it was just interesting how the whole demeanour of someone changed just by mentioning that person.
Yeah, but I don't think there's any comparison between Kier Starmer and Ayatollah Khomeini. Okay, so because I know everyone hates Kier Starmer. I'm one of those.
Yeah,
people.
so that's what I was alluding to.
Don't get me wrong, but at least we live in a democracy here.
Yeah.
Yeah, in here you can criticize Kier Starmer, you won't be dead. If you criticize Khomeini in Iran, you'll be dead. Yeah, so no one has the courage to do it. So the huge difference, and majority of Iranians, look, 10 million Iranians had to immigrate from Iran. 10 million. More than 10 million, actually, if you think about it. And they always say people vote with their feet. If 10 million people leave your country, then your country is doing something wrong. Okay? So in Iran, there's no democracy, as I said. It's just dogmatic, totalitarian, religious extremism. And I think, to be honest, they do that in a sense to control people. It's a control mechanism. It's funny because all their sons and daughters, they come to America and they go to the UK and they're living open lives. But then the young people in Iran have to suffer under those people whilst they send their kids away. Maybe it's a conversation for another day, but you understand what I mean. Which is such a shame, you know. I think Iran could have been Dubai times 1,000. I always say this. Iran has the potential to be Dubai times 1,000. I think Persians have a better culture. They have more money, I think. We have 4 seasons. Like, let's keep it real. I love what Mohammed bin Salman is doing with Saudi Arabia, but Saudi Arabia is a desert. Dubai is a desert. Iran is not a desert. Iran is like full of mountains, full of jungles, full of islands, full of sea. 1 sea in the south, 1 sea in the north. 4 seasons. You have proper winters. You have snow up to here in Iran sometimes. Snow up to here. I'm not joking. Summers are hot. You know, spring is rainy. So it's a very, and also beautiful culture. We're the oldest country in the world. Iran is the oldest country in the world. For those of you that don't believe me, go to ChatGPT now and type, what's the oldest country in the world? And it will say Iran. Not the oldest civilization, the oldest country. And that goes back to the first state that was established back in the day. So we have amazing culture, and it's just such a shame that our regime has been hijacked. And the reason why your barber's face is going like this is because our culture has been hijacked. Our state has been hijacked. It's like, imagine a bunch of Islamists come into this country and just take over the government. Well, how would you react? How would your face be?
Well, pretty soul destroying, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the concept.
Yeah. Obviously, it wasn't always like that. And I know you've spoke about this at length on other podcasts, but I feel as though, out of respect, we should give a little bit of an overview for it. So, for those who are familiar, I don't know if you can pull the photos up, Dylan. We'll get the Shah up. So, back in the 70s? Explain who the Shah is and how that translates to maybe Western, so people can make the parallels. So
this guy was called Mohammad Reza Shah. He was actually educated in Switzerland. His father, which was the original Shah, Reza Shah, was a military man. He was in Switzerland. Extremely educated man. Extremely classy man. Like, honestly, like some of the suits this guy wore and some of the watches this guy used to wear, like Patek Philippe's and Audemars Piguet, like that type of style in the 1970s is what's in fashion now. Like, the guy had like timeless fashion in the sense that he dresses, and classy man, extremely educated, extremely smart. But I think he had one massive flaw, one big flaw, and he was a bit too naive. And where did that naivety come from? Maybe because he was educated in Switzerland. He thought that majority of Iranians back in the 1970s used to think like him. He didn't realize that majority of the Iranians unfortunately are still extremely uneducated and extremely religious. So I think he understated the threat of Islam to his society. And what he done is that he actually silenced the communists in favor of the Islamists. And the Islamists are the ones that overthrew him in 1979 with the help of the communists. So I think his father was an extremely smart man too, but he was a military man. He wasn't educated in Switzerland. He didn't have any. He was a man that basically had to take over the country because the previous dynasty, the Qajar dynasty, which to some extent I'm actually connected to through my heritage, but the Qajar dynasty basically left the country. The country was open. He was suffering famine, and his father had to come and take over the country and regulate the country. He built roads, he built railways, everything. So his father was a very smart man, and he said something very, very, very interesting. He said the Islamists are the biggest threat to this regime, whereas his son didn't quite agree with him. And that was the mistake that they made. So they used Islam. The West did to some extent. Let's keep it real. USA and Britain. The West used Islam because they knew that was a chink in his armor. The West used Islam, and he didn't quite have the courage to speak against Islam because he knew majority of his public are Muslims. And back then it was extremely controversial to say anything bad about Islam. So he gave this space, he gave this sort of, and at the end of the day, back then Iran was a democracy. No matter what people tell you.
I think we've got a photo, if you could pull it up, of what because people have seen pictures, more modern day pictures of Iran, and they certainly wouldn't be as certainly the way the women are dressed there.
Exactly.
But yeah, sorry, go on, I interjected there.
No, it's completely fine. So Iran was on a fast track. Like there's a stat that says the GDP of Iran was growing at 10% per year. That's unheard of. Yeah. And the inflation was at 0. So that what does that mean? Is that you basically double your income in a 10-year period, but you pay the same. So back then, for example, my granddad used to work for an electric company. He used to have 4 children and a wife, obviously. He used to have a massive house. He used to have 2 cars. He used to have a driver. And all his kids went to private school. And obviously there was abundance of food. And, my grandma used to order clothes from France. So, and there was like one person working and supporting 6 people at the same time. Plus he was sending some money abroad to help his other family members and going on holidays. So that was what Iran was. Like people were well off. And that's why there's so many Iranians that actually left Iran as soon as the Islamic Republic happened. If you go to America now, if you go to LA, or if you go anywhere in America, New York even, or even Miami, there's full of Persians. And all those are usually the Persians that actually moved there after the revolution happened, because Iranians could afford to go and buy a house in America back then. You know how
So
these
like
Emiratis come and buy like half of London? That's what the Persians used to be back in the 1970s.
So that's that entrepreneurial mindset
of course,
jumping
I
ship.
think Iranians are very entrepreneurial for sure,
No, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then obviously the revolution, so we can pull up the Ayatollah, just give a kind of like a brief overview of this guy.
Okay, so this guy...
because he was a cleric, wasn't he?
He was a cleric. He's got a long story, but I'll cut it short. This guy was exiled by the Shah. The Shah had the opportunity to kill him. He didn't. That's how much of a gentleman he was. So when people say, oh, the Shah was a dictator, no, he wasn't. He could have killed Khomeini. He didn't. Why didn't he do that? He exiled Khomeini, though. He exiled Khomeini to Iraq. And then I think he was picked up by the MI6 in Iraq, transferred to France for a 10, 15, 20-year period, trained, and they were using him as a token to overthrow the Islamic Republic. And the reason is because, the Shah was almost getting too powerful. Because Iran was progressing too fast and the Shah was getting too powerful. So they always needed someone as a figure to be able to, kind of derail his sort of the dynasty that he was building. So, and, basically they done it. So he went to France, and basically in 1979, with the help of the British and with the help of the Americans and with the help of the French, and with the help of people within Iran, because let's not blame it all on UK, France, and USA, okay? The Iranians themselves made a huge mistake. And they didn't know they were being played by the West. The West said to them, the Shah is a bad guy, the Shah is a dictator, the Shah is this, the Shah is that. Let's bring this gentleman, this fine, holy gentleman. Let's bring him to Iran. He's going to be like a Gandhi figure. And he's going to do you so well. We're going to give you free electricity. We're going to give you free housing. We're going to give you free anything. And because people back then were stupid or uneducated or mixed or religious or mixture of all three, they believed that lie. They believed that propaganda. So they came to the streets, they protested, and there was a huge marketing campaign before him. There were like discs being thrown inside houses that were like with his speeches on. Like how we doing the
like
podcast now.
Brainwashing.
So how we do the podcast now, it goes on YouTube. Back then they didn't have YouTube, so they used to like throw discs. So yeah, there was like, and then the revolution happened, and guess what? The first thing that he does, he executes hundreds of thousands of people, anyone that's against him. And he backstabs the West, he backstabs the American, he backstabs the British, he conquers the US embassy in Iran. And immediately they realize what a huge mistake they made. So that's the story.
I mean, I know you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but if there was ever you could describe a villain of a movie, he would tick a lot of boxes.
Exactly.
In
now
that
put
scenario.
this guy's picture next to the other guy's picture. And I want to see the comparison. Like, I don't know what the Iranian people, not this guy, the Shah guy. Yeah. The Shah guy, like, yeah. So if you can put it side by side, well, I mean, you can do that in the edit.
It'll be together in the edit, yeah.
So yeah, you can, it's amazing.
There you go.
It's crazy. So You went from this to this, and
just a bit of a transition, really, isn't it? Yeah,
exactly. So you can just tell how everything. And look, and as I always say this, the Middle East fell when Iran fell. After 1979, the whole Middle East became destabilized. And even up to this day, his whole wars. Who funds the Hamas? Who funds the Houthis?
I was going to mention the proxies.
Yeah, who funds Hezbollah? Who funds all these wars in the Middle East? The Islamic Republic. Why is the Islamic Republic? Why is the Middle East so destabilized? Because of the Islamic Republic. If you look at if you look at from when he took power, which is I think in 1941, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, I think it was 1941. In 1941 to 1979, there's barely any wars in the Middle East. Literally barely any wars. The Middle East is thriving, and not just Iran is thriving. Lebanon is thriving. Iraq is thriving. Yemen is thriving. Oman, Kuwait, all these places are thriving. As soon as this guy takes over, everything starts going down.
The domino effect, yeah.
The domino effect, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I kind of just wanted to paint the picture there, give a little bit of a history lesson. Obviously, there's more intricacies than how you've just described, but people can go and look that up themselves.
You only have 2 hours, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I kind of, so was you born into, it seems an obvious question, but let you articulate it. Was you born into a Muslim family in Iran?
Yes.
Because where I'm going to here is I want to talk about your beliefs, your spiritual beliefs, and how you came to that.
Okay, so I was born in a very liberal Muslim family. My granddad was a very devout Muslim, but he was a Sunni Muslim. He wasn't a Shiite. He was praying 5 times a day. And, there's pictures of me when I was 3 years old in a full Islamic outfit going to Friday's prayer with him. And I enjoyed it. As I got older, when I came to this country, and look, I never liked the mullahs. I never liked the teachers I had in school. I always knew there was something wrong with these guys, right? However, as a kid, that brainwashing to some extent has some effect on you, even as much as you try to block it out and as much as your parents are trying to block it out, it has an effect on people. Anyone that tells you it doesn't have an effect on you, they're lying. So the people that are born in Iran under the Islamic Republic, they might not know it, but they are either mentally ill or brainwashed to some extent. To some extent, right? However, when I came to this country, I went to a Christian school, and all of a sudden I realized, well, Christians say this and Islam says that. And I was a bit confused. I was like, which one is correct? So I started doing a lot of deep research into Islam, deep research into Christianity, deep research into atheism. So I started reading books into like Richard Dawkins and Christopher.
Love Richard Dawkins. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
so I like he was like my Bible back then, not anymore. And I used to watch all his debates and, anyway, so at around 15 years of age, I became an atheist. And I was so steadfast in my belief. I was like, yeah, there is no God. God is like this and that, it's BS, right? But then at 25 years of age, I came to the realization that atheism is a different side to the same coin as religious fanaticism. Why? Because one is convinced that your God is the correct one and your religion is the correct one, and the other is convinced that there is no God. And I think they are both wrong. What I believe is that God is an energy, a frequency, and a vibration. I don't see God as an energy or a man in the sky. I see God as energy, frequency, and vibration, because everything around you is energy, frequency, and vibration. This sofa is energy. You are, and so am I. Okay? And the more you are aligned with that energy, frequency, and vibration, the better your life will be. I choose to call that God. Other people might not choose to call that God. And I don't even want to change other people's beliefs. I think spirituality is deeply personal. And that's why I don't like the atheists. I understand why they're going against the church and why they're going against Islam. But some of these hardcore atheists that they're convinced, as long as there's no evidence that God exists, I cannot believe in such a thing. But I just think that's such a stupid thing to say. You know why? Because I think our brains still haven't developed to even understand less than 1% of what the universe consists of. So we don't even know certain things that we don't know. Let me explain that again. We don't even know that we don't know. So for example, what is 4 dimensions? What is 5 dimensions? We live in I'm asking you.
Rhetorical, or I can't answer that. But
exactly. You can't anyway, because we live in a 3-dimensional space. So when someone says to you 4 dimensions or 5 dimensions, which we know exists, by the way, well, what is that? It's like explaining the concept of Facebook to an ant. Like you cannot explain it to that. So even if someone came down and explained it to us, you wouldn't understand it. Imagine a new color.
You can't
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you can't. So again, we have a survival-based perception. And once I think God is the totality of the consciousness in the universe. So we have a survival-based perception. We can see, we can hear, but what we see is only a fraction of what is there to be seen. Bees see something different. They see electroviolet colors or whatever animal you can think of. They sense things differently, or they use their frontal lobe. I think we are all part of God. I think consciousness is just ever evolving thing. All the eyes are consciousness. And I think God is the totality of the consciousness of what is. Do you understand? I don't think it's external to us. They say you're not a drop in the ocean. You're ocean in a drop. And that's what Rumi said, my other favorite philosopher, the Persian one. So that's why I believe you're not a drop in the ocean, you're ocean in a drop. God is an energy, frequency, and a vibration, and we are part of it. That's it.
I mean, this might be a personal question. You don't have to answer this on camera. Have you ever tried ayahuasca?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yes.
No, because the way you describe it, 'cause obviously we touched off camera about Graham Hancock. I've had Graham on the show, and obviously he's a big advocate for I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, by the way. I just thought I'd ask because it tied in nicely with the way you've described in that. I know I totally subscribe to that. So I for years myself, I class myself as an atheist just because that seems to be, if you don't conform to a religion, you're an atheist. Whereas I'm very much in the camp of, I suppose you could argue I'm, like you mentioned, deeply personal spirituality. You could argue I'm very much of, I believe that there is a soul in the form of consciousness. I believe that lives on. I can't describe that. It's very abstract. However, that is my genuine beliefs on I suppose the laws of physics, if you will, could be for a...
of course.
I wanted to lay the foundations of what... Are we rolling here, by the way? Okay.
Can I say something before you start? I think religion is what actually stops spirituality. Okay? That's why I'm anti-religion. To some extent, certain things that you have in religion are correct. Even in Islam, the fact that, for me, praying is meditation. It's meditation and repeating positive affirmations, right? And maybe manifestation, So I understand that. Christianity also to my extent. But then majority of religion is actually what stops you from being truly spiritual. So I think people that are religious fundamentalists are actually the least spiritual people. Because I think if you're truly spiritual, you would understand that everyone is a consciousness and everyone, so you wouldn't say, oh, I'm a Muslim, you're a Christian, and my religion is better than yours. A truly spiritual person wouldn't do that. Or you should behead infidels. Like, what kind of a sick person thinks of this? So that's why I criticize religion extensively, especially Islam, because I think it's the most militant of them all. But yeah.
I suppose you've answered my next question, which was going to be, do you believe that there's a place for religion in society if used... Maybe
telepathy.
Not the militant way.
I knew what I was going to
There you go, manifested already.
Yeah, manifested, I think to some extent, yes, but we need a new form of religion. We need a new age of religion. And I know it's difficult because, for example, Western civilization was built on Christianity. Middle Eastern civilization was built. But, Christianity went through its own renaissance. Islam is going through its own renaissance now with Mohammed bin Salman. And what is happening in Dubai. I think it's just, look, again, another quote from Nietzsche. What do supermen do? They try to elevate people's consciousness through culture. Elevate people's consciousness through culture. And that will lead to new forms of spirituality, new forms of thinking. I think religion is the old school, and now we are in the new school. And maybe in 100 or 200 years' time, it will be something completely different. So I think it has its place, but only in an individual sense, in a personal sense to that person, not maybe so much in organizing a society, not anymore. No.
And I think it's got, like you've just mentioned, the Renaissance. It's modernizing it, because what people have got to remember is a lot of these religions started thousands of years ago in the desert. The belief systems then and society then was completely different to how it is today. But yet a lot of these religions, obviously you referenced there Islam, are used in rhetoric, in political means, in militant means, and they're sort of using medieval methods, if you will, in a modern day society. And this is where the lines are very much blurred.
No, exactly. And I just think Muhammad maybe was a great revolutionary for his own time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he was, but 1,400 years, you cannot live by the laws, which is completely obvious if you actually tell it to a rational person.
Yeah, I mean, I want to ask you a question, and it's one you've probably been asked before, and obviously, given what you've said, I know you're going to kind of subscribe to where I'm at with it. But obviously, the life of Prophet Muhammad, I mean, we could unpack that all day. But the big one that kind of massively throws people, and anyone who's kind of anti-Islam, anti-religion, throw this toward Muslims, and that is, of course, Muhammad and Aisha. Consummating the marriage when she was 9 and he was 56.
No, consummated marriage when he was 9, but married at 6.
Married at 6, of course. I missed that part out. So married at 6, consummated at 9. You know, I hear a lot of imams and a lot of Muslims sort of defend that by saying that society was different. What's your take on that as a whole?
Yeah, well, then society was different. Then why do you live by the same laws now? If society was different back then, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? So again, look, I know a lot of people come and say to me, and as some of my friends even sometimes, they're saying, oh, you're taking things out of context. You don't know what you're talking about. You know, Muhammad was a great guy. All I'm going to say to the people, go and read the Quran. Go and read it in your own language so you know exactly what it says. I've actually done a video on it on YouTube where I go like break down the verses of the Quran with the context, by the way. Okay? We're not going to get into that, but let's just speak about Muhammad. Did Muhammad kill? Yes, he did. Did he behead people? Yes, he did. Did he force people to convert to Islam? Yes, he did. Did he marry a 60-year-old? Yes, he did. Did he commit genocide on the Jewish community of Khyber and kill the leader of that community called Kanana and then sleep with his wife the same day he killed her husband, Sophia? Did he do that? Yes, he did. Did he start 29 battles? All of them offensive? Yes, he did. So that's who Muhammad was. Maybe he was necessary for his own times, but don't pretend like this is a prophet of God. Don't pretend like he was a good man. I would compare him to Genghis Khan, or maybe Alexander the Great, that kind of figure, but for the Arabs. But he was no prophet. And I don't believe in prophets anyway. I think these were just strong, powerful people that made a huge impact in their cultures. And then back then, people used to say, oh my God, he's the son of God, or he's the man of God.
They couldn't fact check that.
They couldn't fact check, but also like they would say that about Elon Musk nowadays. Or they would say that about Donald Trump. You know what I mean? So I just think it's very important for people to understand this. I am not talking about all Muslims. I come from a Muslim family. How can I hate all Muslims? Like, that's such a ridiculous thing to say. I'm just thinking about the ideology of Islam and the life of Muhammad and also the hadiths. And the proof is in the pudding. Why is it that every society that moves away from Islam all of a sudden becomes an advanced society like the UAE? Even though they keep some Islamic traditions, all of a sudden Mohammed bin Salman and Saudi Arabia, ever since 2018, he said all the hadiths are void now. We're going to start, women can wear whatever they want. We're going to start serving alcohol soon. They've started opening strip clubs and stuff in Saudi Arabia. Not saying that that's a good thing, but you know what I mean?
great analogy.
But you know what I mean? But you know what I mean? Like the guy completely moving away, and now all of a sudden they're getting trillions and trillions in investment, like with Donald Trump going there, and they're getting AI now, and they're outpacing Europe, by the way. UAE, because I work in the Dubai market in property, the UAE market is outpacing the UK market 10 times. Like the capital appreciations in Dubai are 20 or 30% a year. Here is 4%, even less sometimes. So that just tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, and I think it's beyond, it's gone past coincidence now because it's happened too many times when they sort of go through that renaissance, as it were. Before I kind of go on to, because there's a few things I want to talk, you've touched on Israel. Just a side note as well before we go into Israel. I've halfway through reading the Quran. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert or anything, but here's my copy. One thing that I was not aware of is how many times Israel gets referenced in the Quran, which surprised me how much it was.
Allah was a Zionist because Israel is mentioned 40 plus times in this book, by the way. Palestine is 0. Palestine is mentioned 0. Israel's mentioned 40 times.
Is it 40?
So take that. How you will.
Well, we'll bookmark Israel-Palestine because I do want to get your thoughts on that. You're quite vocal on that. But what I want to do here is kind of like, do you see similarities that are unfolding here in the UK mirror what has gone on in certain parts of the Middle East, Iran and such?
To some extent, yes. But then you have because, you come from a different culture. Unfortunately, Islam and Persian culture and whole Middle East culture are all called intertwined together. Mm-hmm. So I think Islam had a very strong hold on the Middle East for a long time. The advantage you have now in the UK is that you're fundamentally a Christian country, even though you have a huge influx of Muslims coming here. However, be careful. Mm-hmm. Be really careful. All I'm going to say is that societies start becoming unstable as when you have 30% Muslim population. That's happening in India. That's happening all around the world. Once you start having 30% of your population Muslim, those societies become unstable. Mm-hmm. Why? Because Islam is a deeply political religion. It's here to govern. It's here to... In Islam, they believe they have to Islamize the whole world. It says it in the Quran. They believe that it's the responsibility of all Muslims to Islamize the whole world. Like the whole world should become Muslims in their eyes. Because they think they're the last prophet and the last religion. Everyone should, So they're here to take over. They're not here to take part. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, look, 95% of Muslims are peaceful people, but it's the 5% that will make the difference. Mm-hmm. And the 95% won't challenge them. That's the biggest issue. The 95% of Muslims are peaceful people. But when they get an extremist in them, it's like someone used this analogy. The modest Muslims are like the grass that's protecting the snake. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You understand? So it's camouflage.
Yeah.
So be careful of that. And that's what I do. I work with Dubai. Okay? But the sheikhs at the top of Dubai, people say to me, oh, Younes, you work with Dubai. Like, how can you be working? They're Muslims there. I was like, look, the sheikhs in Dubai are smarter than you. The sheikhs in Dubai understand it better than you. That's why they outlawed Muslim Brotherhood 10 years ago. And you still haven't outlawed it in this country. Like, think how ridiculous that is. They outlawed the Muslim Brotherhood in Saudi Arabia, in UAE, but you haven't outlawed it in Europe. Why is that? Are you more Muslim than them? No, you're not. You're just ignorant. And you're virtue signaling. And you have weak politicians like Kier Starmer and Macron and the European Union, these virtue signaling idiots that think, oh, they understand Islam or they know Islam better than us. No, you do not. Okay? And societies start getting better when they move away from Islam. Mm-hmm. Or at least they stop it from mixing in their politics. As I said, spirituality is deeply personal and you should stay that way. You shouldn't mix with politics.
No, I completely subscribe to that, mate. I massively do. And I know when I asked you about the parallels there, immediately people are going to think that I'm alluding to the whole migration, which to some extent I am. Yeah. But I think, you referenced Kier Starmer, so we'll get into him in a moment. But I think the whole authoritarian control that's happening here within. I did a podcast recently where we talked about free speech, and I do think we are losing that, and it is the virtue signalling for other ideologies, not just religion. Obviously, you've got the whole LGBT movement and all that, which I think is just a complete farce, and I say that having multiple gay friends who also think it's a farce as well.
To say that.
Well, exactly. The fact that I have to justify this on camera shows where we're at. Yeah. But yeah, so I, like you mentioned with weak leaders, do you think the UK is potentially heading for a civil war?
Yes, maybe. If things continue as they are for the next 5 or 10 years, yes. But I think something will happen within the next 5 to 10 years to stop that from happening. And
obviously that's always my concerns. And I know you shouldn't always get your information from the internet, but we're all guilty of it, doom scrolling. And, whenever I open X, because X algorithms now I don't even know how to describe it. It's very chaotic. Yeah. That's all you see. A lot of it's very much far right on mine, which we leave that open to interpretation, what that might mean about me. But a lot of the stuff, it is just ongoing conflicts between British people, particularly with immigration, with religion, and it's getting very heated now. That's more heated than I've ever noticed it before.
Yeah, well, look, I think the problem in Britain is that you have a stagnating society, a society in which all the rich people are leaving this country and they're going and investing their money in Dubai or in America. And when rich people start leaving your country, you should be worried. And that's what people started doing beginning of the revolution in Iran, by the way. All the rich people left immediately.
So earlier on, yeah.
So you should be, okay, What's the solution? The problem is we have a cost of living crisis in this country. People can't afford rent. The salaries aren't high, so they have to live in flat shares. Energy costs are high. And people are thinking, look, I'm a college educator. I went to university. I studied. And I'm working like my ass off. And I still, like, I can't afford to make ends meet. And then we have these migrants going and just chilling in 4-star hotels. Like, how is that fair?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's got to a point now, okay, you've had immigrants, you've had them. But now there is a sense that the British values and the British identity is being eroded. And it's being eroded in the name of inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with that is that once you start eroding your own identity, then you will have an identity crisis. And that identity crisis will usually lead to a civil war. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's where Britain is at the moment. I believe in immigration. I think immigration is good as long as it's legal and as long as you bring the most competent people in. You can't be bringing people from third world countries with extreme ideological backgrounds that don't even speak English to your country, put them on the welfare for like decades. And then some of those people will end up becoming extremists and terrorists and, just cause your society or start molesting women and raping women and stuff like that. You need to bring the best people into your society. Again, I keep using the Dubai example. 80% of Dubai is immigrants. But do they have any problem? No. They're the safest country in the world. Why? Because they go and handpick those immigrants. They're like, okay, you come to our society, you work for us, and if we like you, we might give you something permanent later on. Mm-hmm. But it's not like, yeah, please come with us. Yeah, we're going to give you a nice little hotel, go and chill for you. We give you free meals a day. When there's like people stealing fruit from the supermarkets because they can't afford it. Or, they have to skip a meal because they want their kid to eat. So that's just not right.
No, and I think that's where the frustration lies. Yeah. And unfortunately, as a society, not everyone's as educated as yourself. And I don't class myself as well educated, but I do my research. Not everyone's going to go out there, read the Quran. Not everyone's going to educate themselves on the history of migration in the UK. Yeah. And as a result of that, that then brings out, for those listening, I'm doing inverted commas here, far right thugs and racists and fascists and people who are, let's have it right, are probably promoting the Union Jack in not the means it's intended to. Yeah. And that again that's why I asked you with regards to civil war. I think that's where it's just got so chaotic now. I don't think no one knows what the fuck's going on basically. And obviously now they've recently just introduced Kier Starmer and I can never remember his name. The French Macron. That's it. Yeah. I've now mentioned about doing digital IDs. Okay. So I just want to get you to say, what do you think of the digital? Because they're using it, they're marketing it as to combat illegal immigration. But I personally think that's nonsense. But let's see your take.
Yeah, but I think that's where things were headed anyway. I think after COVID especially, I think it became very clear that they're, first of all, like they use fear to control people. Digital currencies. The whole COVID thing, for me at least, because I'll be honest with you, I never wore a mask. Mm-hmm. And I pretty much done what I wanted during COVID. I went to house parties at the time of my life, by the way. I done what I had to because I done my research. I realized it was nonsense. The vaccine doesn't stop you from having COVID and it doesn't stop you from transferring. But it's the same concept. They use fear in order to bring new controls in. And now, okay, stop the illegal migration. Stop the boats. Why do you want to impose? But look, at the end of the day, this is where we're headed. Mm-hmm. You can't stop technology. With AI, they're going to have cameras soon, can identify you like this. Mm-hmm. You don't even need digital ID. You just can put a camera there. It will identify you like this. Wherever you are in the world, boom. And even they can like check your DNA even, I've heard. Or they can check your body temperature. Or crazy, they do it already in China. They have a credit score. They have a sort of, what's it called? Social credit score. Mm-hmm. So, look, I know where things are headed, but I think as a society we have to resist, but at the same time we can't really resist. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because if you want to live, if you want to work, you just have to like comply. Like how they say, well, we want to do digital ITs now completely, or we want to do completely, or we want to do cashless. They just take away cash.
Which is pretty much what they've done now, haven't they? I mean, I know cash still exists, but a lot of businesses now are no longer accepting cash as a means of transaction. I hear what you're saying, though. What would it be that, I mean, surely the strength in numbers must apply. I appreciate the technology is going that way. I think it's not so much people are fearful of the technology. I think people are just fearful of how the leaders are going to be using said technology.
Exactly. And the thing is, I'm a libertarian. You know, when someone asks me, I don't think I'm so much on the right or the left. So this idea that I'm a far-right thug is ridiculous.
I get that a lot as well.
You know what I mean? I'm a libertarian. I believe in freedom of choice, freedom of expression, freedom for markets, freedom of speech. That's what I believe in. I believe in freedom, okay? On some issues, I'm conservative. In other issues, I am a liberal. But the problem with the Kier Starmer government is that they use empathy or they use fear as a mechanism or as a tactic to impose control. And it's disingenuous. It's disingenuous. That's why people are scared. Like the whole COVID thing was disingenuous. What they're doing right now is disingenuous. So that's why people are pushing back on it. And at the end of the day, I think, look, we have something called the World Economic Forum. I think Kier Starmer is a World Economic Forum puppet. So is Macron. So is majority of the European Union leaders. Trump isn't one of them. That's why they hate him. The Italian woman, Meloni, isn't one of them. That's why they hate him. The guy from Poland isn't one of them. That's why they hate him. And the guy from Hungary. So this is the thing. I think we have the globalists trying to control everyone and everything. And those are the ones that are actually, it's called the Great Replacement Theory. I think there's something about it that they are trying to actually actively bring people to confuse Europe, to put Europe in turmoil so they can impose more banking system and more identity systems in Europe. Yeah.
I think, like, obviously since COVID, I think they exposed themselves quite a lot. All the things you've just listed there. Yeah. And they continue. You'd have to be pretty naive or pretty damn ignorant to not see, obviously you referenced there Trump, the blatant, particularly where the mainstream's concerned, this blatant straw man in effect that goes on with Trump. And he did it in the last time he was
but he's winning so far.
And exactly, he's winning. And that's what I mean. I think that now they're exposing themselves that much that people just aren't buying into this anymore. No. And it's no coincidence that Kier Starmer gets the amount of flack he gets based on people are waking up to this.
But then the thing is, Kier Starmer is an extremely disingenuous person. I hate disingenuous people. Just speak your mind. Yeah. Say what you have to say. Like, what are you afraid of? Honestly. And the thing is,
he's weak with it as well.
He's weak. He doesn't have charisma. Like, I feel like he's rehearsed every word he's saying like 20 times and then he still fucks up on the 21st time he does it. You know what I mean? Like, the guy just doesn't have it. Mm-hmm. And you can just tell he's a stooge. Mm-hmm. Like, you can just tell, like, there's people behind the scenes just pulling the strings and he just comes there and does his little thing. He doesn't have his own opinions. He's just, doing what his overlords tell him. So I don't like him. I used to be a big fan of Nigel Farage and Reform. But right now, I'm a bit kind of.
Well, do you know what? Let's get into that because everyone at the moment is champion reform. They're going to save Britain.
Yeah.
And quite a few, I think I'd say it was a vast majority, but now it seems to be dwindled a little bit. And it's probably because of voices like your friend Tommy Robinson, who are kind of highlighting some chinks in Farage's armour, which I'm sure you're going to likely do in a moment. But what's your take on the whole Nigel Farage reform and people's opinion of him?
Okay, so look, this is what I think of Nigel Farage, and I'll be extremely honest, and I think this is going to be quite controversial. So,
are we going to need a disclaimer or anything? Come up here.
brace for impact. So, look, I used to be a big fan of Nigel Farage. I used to work with Reform Party in communication strategy. I still think they are probably at this point the best party to lead Britain to win the next general election, and I think they're miles better than Labour and the Conservatives. Okay, but I also find Nigel Farage a bit disingenuous. Mm-hmm. I find him to be a bit of a snake. And I explain to you why exactly. Piers Morgan came and, Piers Morgan used to be in love with Nigel Farage as well. And he said that when Nigel Farage knew Donald Trump is going to interview Trump, so when Nigel Farage knew Piers Morgan was going to interview Trump, he sent Trump a whole dossier of all the negative things that Piers Morgan has said about Trump, just to piss Trump off. Like, that's a very snaky move, don't you think? It's a very snaky move.
It's a childlike move.
It's a childlike move. It's very childlike. And it's because, back then, it was GB News and Piers Morgan was on Talk TV. So they had this battle. So he tried to almost, mess up for Piers Morgan. And that's the type of person.
And that would probably work with someone like Trump as well, pandering to his ego as it
exactly.
were.
And you don't do that. I used to work with the Reform Party in communication strategy in the social media sector, and we done amazingly well. We got 4 million votes in a month. On a shoestring, basically, we managed to get 4 million votes, and it was because of people like efforts of like my people and people in my team, and the people we were working with. However, I had the courage to challenge Nigel Farage once to his face, and I said to him, "Stop speaking so much about immigration. It makes you come across racist. You can use that as a common thread in all the different issues that you put out, but don't keep speaking about immigration." Speak about the other issues you have, because I think the policies are amazing. Trump didn't just win on immigration. He won on the economy. He won on the whole woke stuff. He won on free speech. He won on the many different aspects. But the moment you hear reform, you hear racist and you hear anti-immigration. That's what people hear, like especially the minorities and people that don't really like Nigel Farage or the Labour voters. So I said to him, I was like, look, it's just because I saw in every single debate, even though he was the most charismatic and the most funniest, I just thought the whole thing was about immigration. Like, dude, speak about economy, speak about free speech, speak about how much of a idiot the Kier Starmer is, or how much charisma he doesn't have.
Get loads of votes just based on the latter.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and then he was quite shocked. And then after, when the election was over, he said to me, "Oh yeah, thank you for your efforts, but we don't really need you anymore." And I knew it was because I had the courage to challenge him to his face. He didn't like that. He done that to Ben Habib. And now Ben Habib has started his own Advanced UK, which is retweeted by Elon Musk, by the way, saying
this past week. Yeah,
Elon Musk said Nigel Farage doesn't have what it takes. Vote Advanced UK. And I'm a good friend of Ben Habib. I've interviewed him a few times. He's been on my podcast a few times. Met him in person on GB News and everything. Good guy. I like him. But he was also a good friend of Nigel Farage. He was he was one of the founders of Reform. And Nigel Farage didn't like that, so he kicked him out the party. And I even said that to him. You cannot win elections by kicking people out. How did Trump win election? He won it with the help of Musk. He won it with the help of Kennedy. He won it with the help of...
It was like the Avengers were assembling with Trump's campaign.
Exactly. And then instead of doing the same thing and following the same model, he done the opposite. And I think Nigel Farage is all about his own ego. And one last thing I want to say about him. He was talking the talk before the election, saying all the right things. And then as soon as he got elected, he morphed into another Tory. Did you realize that? Yeah. And then kind of giving the middle finger to all the Tommy Robinson crowd and calling them far right and just kind of siding with the mainstream media. So I was like, you kind of change colors, mate. You change colors. And I don't appreciate about people. I like people that stay and, are who they are, and they're unapologetic about it, and they follow through what they have to do. And I don't get that sense with Nigel Farage anymore, and hence why I think he's a bit of a snake.
Sort of your opinion and views to Nigel to one side.
Yeah.
Do you think that Reform and Nigel will become
most likely?
Just based most on likely.
To be honest with you, look, most likely I think they will.
Just because the other oppositions are so weak as it stands at the moment, or just because of the values, or maybe what's pandering to the masses?
Yes, I think most likely. Look, I said this in an article recently, actually. I think it was the Evening Standard or London Standard. They asked me about this. It was like a few months ago. And I said, look, Nigel Farage is almost definitely the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. However, it's not set in stone. Advanced might have a chance.
Okay.
I said that before Advanced was a thing. Advanced might be the challenger. It might be a Reform v Advanced.
That'd be a U-turn, wouldn't it? If Advance and Reform were the two titans of British politics.
The thing is, I actually sent a message to Ben Habib last night, and I congratulated him. I was like, congratulations on the Elon Musk retweet. I agree with Elon Musk. I don't think Nigel Farage has what it takes. I really do. So if I get back into politics, I will be supporting Advance. And the reason is that Advance is not just about immigration. Yeah, that's a huge part, but it's also about free speech, free markets, businesses. How are we going to bring money back into the UK? How are we going to... Whereas Reform has become... And look, I don't want to say this, and this is maybe the last bit of input I'm going to have on this, but this is a fact, okay? I hate identity politics. I despise identity politics. I think that people should be judged based on their character. And I don't care whether someone's black or white or anything. And I hate it when people say, oh, there's so much racism in the world. I don't think that at all, because I'm a confident person. I believe in myself. And I think at the end of the day, I think your competence shines through. Okay? Well, when I was working in reform, I noticed something. I noticed majority of the people we were working here are white and white British. I always felt kind of a bit left out. And then also all the board members now are mostly white. And, I just got that sense of there is this underlying maybe sense of racism in reform. I got that sense.
So one extreme to the other, isn't it? So you've gone from too much inclusivity to none at all.
Yeah, exactly. And I just got that bit of sense, I had certain comments, which I'm not going to make, because, I don't want to out these people, but there were certain comments that were made towards me. And I felt I was like, that's quite racist, actually. That's quite discriminatory. So I saw that side of reform as well. Okay, I'm not saying everyone that works in reform is a racist, or Nigel even is a racist. But there are certain people that work within, or there's a certain mentality within reform that's a little bit racist. And I don't think that's a good thing.
No, because I think, so with the racism as a whole, particularly in the UK, the lines have become very much blurred. Yeah. And now it's a point where potential racism is used as rhetoric, if you will, because people don't. It's gone to the point where people are treading on eggshells because they don't want to come racist. So now they've got to the point where they're not bothered if they get labelled racist. And I think there needs to be common ground. Yeah. And if a cabinet is being racist, or showing signs to that, then there is no common ground. Then is there?
And it reflects in the fact that they only speak about immigration. Why do you only speak about immigration? I don't understand. Don't you have anything else to speak about? You only speak about immigration. If you're only speaking about immigration, there's something wrong with your party. That's what I think.
Certainly for someone of your ilk who's clued up on that, I personally think it's they know that's pandering to the masses. They think, if we shout about immigration and deportation, the people who aren't clued up and they're sort of like, send the boats back. They're the kind of audience. Yeah,
but then how much of the population do you think that is? 20%, 30%?
I know it's very low, but clearly they don't in their institution.
So they don't have the right strategists behind them.
Yeah.
But all of that being said, I think reform is still there. That's why I work for them in the first place. I think reform are still much better options than Conservatives and Labour. But I don't think they're the ideal option. I think maybe Advance could do something.
So this is an endorsement for Advance, would you say? Publicly?
Yeah, I would say so, maybe. Yeah, I mean, Ben Habiba was going to watch this, I'm sure. So yeah, I would like to help out Advance for sure.
Awesome. You mentioned about, just quickly before we get into some more geopolitics, you mentioned about getting involved in politics. Would that be over in the UK, helping Advance, or would it be maybe even... I know you're on a previous podcast, you've mentioned about potentially looking at politics in Iran. Should things change there under the current regime?
Well, there's so many different options. I'll be completely honest with you. I find the politics in this country quite boring, to be completely honest. I find American politics much more interesting.
American politics is kind of like Game of Thrones, isn't it? Even though I'm not American, I can get invested. Or what's Trump doing? But
exactly,
we're over here, Kier Starmer. Turn it over.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how I feel. So, and also the system. But I'm a British citizen. I lived in this country for more than 20 years. I grew up in London. I know London like the back of my hand. I've been to everywhere there is to go to London, and I know everyone pretty much. So. Someone was mentioning to me, maybe you should run for mayor one day, or maybe you should, run for MP. So I will definitely look into it, because that's something I can do. I might love American.
You do a damn sight better than Sadiq Khan, and I don't even know what your business strategies are. So I don't know whether that's a compliment or not, though.
No, but yeah, I mean, I think anyone can do better than Sadiq Khan. But at the end of the day, look, I was working on this project. I'll give you a quick story. There was something called the Globe in Stratford. The Globe, they have it in Las Vegas. That ball thing that they have amazing concerts in. It's 360 degrees, and it's now become the main attraction that people go to Vegas to see the Globe, right? There was one being made, or was approved to be made in Stratford, in the UK, in London. Okay, and we was doing the marketing for it, and we actually set up this whole thing to bring investors, to show them oh my God, look at all these amazing things that the Globe can do. You know what Sadiq Khan done? He shut it down. He shut it down. And I was thinking, why would you shut down such a money magnet for London, right? And then his excuse was, too much light pollution. I was like, there is already light pollution in Stratford. It's right next
London.
next to this shopping mall in Stratford. What are you talking about? There's literally West Ham Stadium there, Stratford thing, and then this thing on the side, and then you have the Olympic. What light pollution? There's literally lights all around it. So I just didn't understand, and no wonder why no investor wants to come to London anymore. No one wants to invest their money in London anymore. Why is that? Because we've got a mayor that makes it anti-capitalist, anti-competitive, pandering to the welfare state. And he said something so stupid the other day. He was like, oh, when Donald Trump comes to London, I'm going to take him to a mosque and I'm going to take him to an LGBTQ parade. I was like, you're going to take the president of the United States to something that's not British. So you're going to take him to a mosque and an LGBTQ parade. That's what you're going to do as the mayor of London. Like, there's nothing better to do in London than to go to a mosque and LGBTQ. So that's the mentality he has. He's completely backwards, and he's
just on that, you know, that just sounds like a complete oxymoron. So for those who aren't aware, Sadiq Khan's Muslim.
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain, not all Muslims, but the general consensus to homosexuality is not great.
Yeah.
So how are you blending the term? It's sort of like the Queers for Palestine thing. It doesn't really add up, does it?
I find him disingenuous as well. So if you're a devout Muslim, it says in Islam, I forgot the actual word. It's not I'll remember it later, but it basically says kill the gays.
Yeah.
Basically it says kill the gays, but it doesn't use the word gays. He used the word, some other word. So yeah, they actually kill a lot of Islamic countries. They kill gay people. So you're a Muslim, but but then there's the thing, this guy is he's a sheep. He's a non-playable character. And I take it back to the conversation we was having earlier about challenging systems and norms. I think Kier Starmer, I think Sadiq Khan, these are just sheep that have kind of gone into a system, kind of followed that system all the way to the top, and they got to power. These are not real leaders. These are not original people. These are not challenges. These are not the people that will set the norms, set the standards, set the culture. These are what we call non-playable characters. You know, when you play a video game, you have non-playable characters. Or then when the Matrix happens, have you seen the film Matrix? Anyone can turn into an agent. They are the agents from the Matrix. Don't be like the agent from the Matrix. Be Neo. Or be Morpheus at least. Or be someone.
I'd be Morpheus if I could pick,
Yeah. I'll be Neo, but we'll make a good team though.
We will. But no, I've loved that terminology, non-playable characters. They're just so out of touch with reality. And it's beyond fathomable now, because like you mentioned Kier Starmer, he's starting to look more and more like a puppet, and Sadiq Khan's following suit. Okay, so a bit of geopolitics. So we've kind of mentioned with the UK as a whole, staying on kind of like the religion and conflict theme. Obviously, this war seems to have divided society so much, and I mean beyond the UK, and that is, of course, the Israel-Palestine conflict.
Right.
Obviously, we don't want to go into too much detail because obviously we've not got the time, but what's your analysis on that conflict as a whole?
Okay, so I was born in Iran, and I saw the realities of Islamic Republic, of what it done into my country. And what Hamas is doing to Palestinians is exactly what Islamic Republic done to Iranians, but much worse. So I was born in Iran. I have lived the experience. You cannot change my mind. I am more pro-Israel. And the reason is because I understand the realities on the ground. Israel is a democracy, is where gay people can live, is where Christians live, is where 2 million Muslims live, and they actually got jobs in high courts, is where you have elections, is where the economy is thriving. I'm going to Tel Aviv, or to go to most likely to Israel end of October. Tel Aviv is one of the most amazing cities in the world. Like, people tell me, like, go to Tel Aviv. It's better than London. Like, more attractive people. We have people like, it's like LA, but better. So and then you have the other side that was given 20 billion back in 2005. And they could have done exactly what they done in Tel Aviv. But what do they do instead? They kill all the opposition, and they use that 20 billion to build tunnels. And the leaders, they go and live in Qatar in 5-star hotels, right? I feel sorry for the Palestinian people. I want Palestine freed, but I want it to be freed from Hamas. I want it to be freed from Islamic radicalism, because Gaza could have been Dubai. if it was for the right leadership, but it's not. That being said, this idea, Palestine didn't exist in history. Show me one map in history with the borders of Palestine. There was no such thing as Palestine, ever. That's why I said Israel is mentioned 40 times in the Quran. Okay? 0 for Palestine. Palestine is a colonial term that was given to the people there by the Romans, which they called it Palestine, and then it was called the British Mandate for Palestine. Okay, and if you see, there's like planes with the Star of David on them, and then Palestine next to it, right? So it was actually, explaining the Jews. So that's what Palestine is just a made-up identity by people like Yasser Arafat and the KGB in order to challenge Jewish identity and to move them out of the land. Because whatever they claim about Israel being genocidal, it's actually them. When they shout river to the sea, they mean the whole of Israel needs to go. So they are the ones that are genocidal towards Israel. Israel is saying we've got 2 million Muslims living in Israel, right? If we wanted to commit genocide, it would take one afternoon. Literally one afternoon. Israel has the capabilities to carpet bomb whole of Gaza and wipe it out in one afternoon. Why didn't they do that? Why did they send soldiers that had to go into tunnels and die because the tunnels were booby-trapped? Just because they wanted to, open those tunnels one by one just to, make sure there's no human casualties. So when you see that, Israel is going out of its way to save civilians. Okay? This idea that, Israel is starving Palestinians. Well, okay, 2 things to say about that. First thing is that in which war have you heard one side is responsible for the other side's food? Was the Germans responsible for the British food during World War II? Or was the British responsible for the Germans? In a war, no one's responsible for your food. And the funny, ironic thing is, when Hamas took over Gaza, they had glass houses in Gaza that were built by the Jews. So when they kicked all the Jews out of Gaza, they destroyed all those glass houses, greenhouses. Because they said, these are like haram fruit because they were made by the Jews. We don't want them. So they destroyed. So they could have fed themselves, actually, if they wanted to. But they destroyed it back then. But then you had $20 billion. You couldn't make a factory for food yourself. You couldn't make a farmland. Okay, so one side, who says that they have to provide? But they do. They do. They've sent tons and tons and tons of food to Palestine. That's a fact. There are videos of the trucks, okay? When the food arrives, Hamas militants steal the food. Have you ever seen this, like a malnourished Hamas fighter? I challenge anyone, please go and find me a malnourished Hamas fighter. Or a leader. Actually, the leader is actually so fat, like some of them. Yeah? They steal the food, they shoot their own people. It's on camera shooting their own people. And then they claim, Israel IDF soldiers are shooting. I am not saying everything that Israel has done is 100% correct. I'm not saying that at all because I don't see life in black and white terms. I know there is 50 shades of grey. But overall, the arc of justice or the scale of justice points more towards Israel. Okay? And the reason is they've done everything in their power to feed the Palestinians. They steal the food. And also another ironic thing, and the third thing, and I want the audience to think about this. Gaza has a border with Egypt. Why isn't Egypt sending them food? And why is the border between Egypt and Gaza stronger than the border between Gaza and Israel? Okay? And these are your supposed Arab brothers and Muslim brothers. And even they know that. The funny thing is people don't know. Egypt is giving Mossad information about where they think Hamas leaders are. Jordan is giving Israel information about where they think Hamas leaders are. Even Lebanon, Saudi Arabia. When the rockets were being shot by Iran towards Israel, half the rockets were shot by Saudi and Jordan. So all these Arab countries want to actually normalize relations with Israel. The Abraham Accords, right? What is Abraham Accords? Abraham Accords is normalizing of relations between Arab countries and Israel. UAE has already signed it. Bahrain has already signed it. Saudi Arabia was very close to signing it, but it collapsed because of October 7th. And the October 7th was a extremely strategic chess move by Iran because they knew if Saudi normalized relations with Israel, it would isolate them. So they done that in order to collapse the peace talks and for this whole war to break out and for naive people in the West to say, oh, poor Palestinians, evil Israel, the Zionists. And we're all in this propaganda battle. And I'm not going to lie, Israel is losing this PR battle. Israel, because majority of the people are extremely brainwashed and they're pro-Palestine. But they do not understand the realities on the ground. Okay? I was born in Iran, and I also suggest you go and watch this guy, Mossab Hassan Youssef. I'm sure you know him, the son of Hamas. He was a guy that was the son of founder of Hamas, and he ended up working for the Israelis. And he said the IDF cares more about Palestinians than Hamas. The Israeli government cares more about the Palestinians than Hamas leaders do. Okay, so that's the reality on the ground. Nobody wants innocent civilians to die. Nobody wants innocent civilians to die. Nobody. But it depends on your solution. And the other side doesn't have a solution. They're like, oh yeah, give Palestine a state. Yeah, sure, we already tried that 4 times. It didn't work, did it? And where would this Palestinian state be? Because Gaza is in rubbles now. Is it going to be in West Bank? So I just don't think there is a solution. So I think fundamentally what's going to happen, I think Israel's going to take over Gaza. The 2 million people either have to go to Egypt, or they have to go to West Bank, or they have to go to Jordan, or they have to come to Europe. And maybe Britain has to take some of them, which is going to be tough, trust me, because there's going to be a lot of extremists. And this is the funny thing is, Arab countries don't want Palestinians in their country. Why is that? Why is it that the Arab countries, your Muslim brothers and sisters, don't want you in their countries? Because they know that unfortunately a substantial amount of Palestinians have been radicalized. There's Hamas terrorists in them, and they just do not want those people in their societies to be able to destabilize. So that's what I think.
I mean, there's a few questions we're going to ask you though, but you answered them as you went along. This is clearly more your wheelhouse than mine. I can see how passionate you are, and I'm not educated enough on the history and the politics behind it to have an opinion on either side. Where I'm at, just for the season B's of it, is I don't agree with innocent civilians being killed, but I also don't understand the politics behind it. So I'm not here to debate you, of course. But where do you think that narrative has come to the West that acts of genocide, ethnic cleansing? Where are these coming from? This is the
thing. This is a much deeper battle that we are fighting. The battle we are fighting is the misinformation from the Islamic Republic saying that the Zionists are the bad guys, we are the good guys, and the Hamas terrorists are the good guys, and they're the victims. And unfortunately, we have gullible people in the West believing it, protesting, infiltrating universities, doing all these things. And this is what's going to make your societies crumble from within the next few years. This is what's going to make your societies crumble, because there are people and it goes back to the virtue signaling idiots that don't know what they're talking about. It's about, they cover their utterances in kindness and empathy and inclusion. And once you give them enough ground, they will take over you. And that's exactly what happened with the Shah. And I think this is a information battle that the Israelis are losing, because they clearly don't have good PR people. And maybe that's why they're taking me to Israel for the last 2 weeks, because I'm an Iranian that's like pro-Israel. And I defend them better than they defend themselves. And look, let me say this. There are some extremists in Israeli government. I'm not saying they are squeaky clean and they are like angels. No, not at all. There are some genocidal people in Israeli government. There are some extremists in Israeli government. But they are in a minority. And overall, Israel is a democracy. Whereas I can say on the other side, it's not the same. Majority of them are extremists. And literally in the Hamas charter, destroy Israel. Kill all the Jews. Same with Iran. Every Friday, death to Israel, death to America, death to the UK. What do you mean death? Have you ever heard Netanyahu come and say, death to all the Palestinians, death to all the Iranians? No. So as a matter of fact, he's saying, I want to help Iranians, because we have a water crisis in Iran now. Water is running out in Iran, and Israel is saying, okay, we can help you. Overthrow your regime. We have the best desalination technologies. So we have to keep these things into perspective. Netanyahu is not stupid at all. He went to MIT. He's a war veteran. I don't agree with everything that he does, but this is what I say, and I'll say this on camera, and you can clip this maybe in the future. He will go down as one of the most consequential statesmen of the 21st century. Okay? What he's doing now, people don't realize. People might think he's Hitler, but in like 20, 30 years' time, when he reshapes the Middle East, they will look at him as a Churchill figure.
Like a Mandela type
Exactly,
character. Yeah.
exactly. Because people don't really, because Churchill wasn't even voted back into the office even after he won the World War. Can you imagine? You win World War II and you're not even voted back into the office afterwards. And that's exactly because this is war makes people go crazy. Look, there might be some IDF soldiers that act roguely and do their own thing, and they maybe shoot civilians. I'm not denying that. Maybe they are. But the overall order from the IDF and Mossad is minimize civilian casualties. We don't want to kill civilians. We want to go after Hamas. We put ourselves in harm's way to go after Hamas. Because if it was genocidal, like it's a funny thing. Genocide could take only one afternoon. Okay, if I want to commit genocide, why would I even send you food in the first place? And why would I shoot you whilst you're getting it? Like, do you think like we're some sickos here? And this is the thing, like people are so gullible, they believe this. They're like, oh, the Zionists are just evil people. They just love killing children. No, they're not. Israel is one of the most advanced countries in medicine. They're one of the most advanced countries in AI. They're one of the most they're one of the greatest countries in terms of banking, technology, Jewish people in general. So yeah, I think you need to realize this. I think the Jews have done a lot for society as a whole, and I think they should have a state for sure.
Have you ever met Douglas Murray? I think you two had hit it off really well.
Yeah, I haven't met him. I actually have his book. I know people that know him, but I would love to meet him.
That'd be an interview I'd like to listen to. Both you and him. Just obviously with the protests of the whole Palestine movement here in the UK. It's interesting, like you see videos and obviously seeing the protest, even here in Liverpool, there was one happening the other week. And I actually I'd stake my mortgages on it that half of these people who are protesting, they haven't got a clue. They probably couldn't even name locations in Palestine. They probably couldn't even tell you October 7th was when Hamas invaded Israel. I just think people are just jumping on the bandwagon through this virtue signaling ideology.
Yeah, look, the thing is, it's funny because I was speaking to this gentleman in the steam room. I go to the gym and I'm going to the steam room afterwards, and I see this old man and I start talking to him, and he's from Cyprus, and he was telling me how he saw the rockets coming to Israel. So we start talking and I tell him what I do and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, look, at the end of the day, Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. That's a fact, by the way. Some guy walks in, and then he laughs as I say that. I was like, well, what was funny about what I said? He was like, oh, you must be joking, bro. I was like, well, what do you mean? She's like, no, Israel is not there. They kill their own people. They do this. They done 9/11. They're Zionists. They drink kids' bloods and going on this rampage of just ridiculous things. Like, honestly, like insane things. And he was like, no, I work in military intelligence. I was like, no, you don't work in military intelligence, man. Don't talk nonsense. No, because I know people that work in military intelligence, yeah? You do not work in military intelligence. And, I just realized back then that how the propaganda has got into people's heads. Look, I'm going to say this. Israel is at the forefront of the battle you are fighting. And if Israel lose, you will have it in this country soon. Take it to the bank. So it's in your interest, in the UK's interest, in America's interest, in the whole of Europe's interest that Israel win this war against Hamas. Because that way we can normalize relations with the wider Middle East, with Saudi Arabia. And all these, look, Mohammed bin Salman is a Zionist. He said, I want to normalize relations with Israel. The UAE leaders have already signed. They want to normalize relations with Israel. They're all against the Islamic Republic. That should tell you everything you need to know, right? And there's something that I'm working on, actually. It's called the Cyrus Accords, which is something that's going to come after the Abraham Accords. And that's the normalizing of relations between Israel and Iran. And actually, one of the reasons I'm going to Israel towards the end of October is to work on that thing. It's called the Cyrus Accords. So hopefully that they will come soon.
Sort of moving more towards the West now, away from the protest. Obviously, we referenced him at the start. So Donald Trump. I know you have said, and you've spoken quite openly on other podcasts, that when Donald Trump intervened with the attack on Iran, defending Israel, you was very much in the camp of he should have done the full job, basically. Do you want to just elaborate on that? And is that still of your opinion? And if so, why?
Yes, it is. Because, look, I understand why he didn't finish the job. And it's because he ran on the premise of, I'm going to stop all wars. I'm not going to start any new wars. And it's not really my business to change, regimes in another country. So yeah, look, he ran on that premise, and I understand. However, it will come back and bite him in the future. Because, I don't know if you've read this book. I'm sure you have 48 Laws of Power. It's like, destroy your enemies completely. And if you don't destroy them, they will come back and bite you. He didn't want, because he's saying, look, as far as we are concerned, we do not want Islamic Republic to have a nuclear bomb. We destroy their nuclear facilities. It's not up to us to cause a regime change. Why? Because there's two factors here. One factor is that who's going to come and replace them? We don't really know who's going to. There's this guy called Shah Sadegh Pahlavi, which is the son of the Shah, which is the son of the Shah we were speaking about earlier.
Okay, yeah.
I like him. He's a very educated man. But then again, just like his father, I think he's soft, but even softer than his father. I think, like, you know, at least his father had some sort of charisma with the way he dressed and, you know, way he spoke and everything. I think he even lacks that. And I think in order for you to become a proper leader, a respected leader, you need charisma. Like 90% of leadership is charisma. There's a book written on this, actually. It doesn't matter what you do. 90%. In order for you to get to believe in your ideas, you have to have charisma. And, you know, I was kind of disappointed with Shah Sadegh Pahlavi, because I was thinking, because I was going crazy on social media, like doing all these videos, and he was doing the same. But, you know, he used to come on camera and very tame. Very, very tame and very weak even. Like reading off a piece of paper.
And we need optimism today.
Yeah, we need optimism. Like, come on the camera and say, please, Mr. Trump, finish the job. I have a cabinet set. Let's do this. We can do this. You know, or Iranian people come into the streets. Let's protest. Let's overthrow them. He just comes on camera and says, Khomeini, if you give yourself in, we will make sure you have a due course in court. Like, who the fuck gives about? I hope the guy dies. I don't care about whether he has do his day in court. Like, what are you talking about? So it's just not inspiring enough for me, Shah Sadegh Pahlavi, even though I support him. Okay? In terms of Trump didn't finish the job because A, he's not his business. 2, he doesn't know what's going to take over. And 3, which is the most important thing, is he was expecting more from the Iranian people. And I think what happened is that the Iranian people, because they are scared, because they have been raised in a dogmatic sort of authoritarian regime that instills fear in them all the time. And people are scared. Like, people get shot in the street, or they go to jail, or they get lashed for like minor crimes. Were you in Iran, would you be as brave as us here? No, you wouldn't. So, and also his life is very hard in Iran. Like, people are just working 24/7 just to be able to eat. Okay? So I think Iranian people are very tame. They were very tame. They didn't come out and protest. And also, I think, unfortunately, the brainwashing has worked to some extent after 46 years. And anyone that tells you it hasn't, they're lying to you. Okay? To some extent, it's worked, because I think Iranians, even though majority of them, and I mean 80 to 90%, hate the Islamic Republic. And I don't think hate is too strong a word. Hate the Islamic Republic. But they would rather stick with the stability that the Islamic Republic provides over, you know, the instability or the chaos that would ensue after the Islamic Republic goes. I personally think it's going to be better, but then people are scared to come into the streets because, you know, they don't have a house to live in. They don't want a war to break out. You know, they worked all their life, 50, 60 years to own a house. And all of a sudden, with one bomb, the house goes. They have nothing left. So I think the Iranian people were very tame. I was kind of disappointed with the Iranian people, I'm not going to lie. I was expecting more from them. But Trump also stopped Netanyahu. He also stopped Netanyahu from killing Khomeini. And I understand his reasoning. However, I just think he done that to tell Khomeini, I'm going to give you one last chance. Fix up.
To basically showcase.
Yeah, show his house. Look, I saved your life. Fix up now. But I don't think that's a fantasy that Trump has. He's never going to fix up. The guy's 80 years old. He's going to die for what he believes in. So I don't think it's over. I don't think it's over, because I think what's happening now behind the scenes is going again towards another war, because they're saying they're not, you know, backing down, and also they are re-strengthening. They are working on a new bomb again. Apparently, it's been confirmed. So I think something's going to happen on the Trump term again. I think the story is not over yet. So yeah.
Just obviously the hierarchy. You mentioned the Ayatollah is in his 80s. He's probably not long for this world. Who then replaces him? How does that work?
So we have his son, Mojtaba Khomeini.
And will that just automatic? Will he just?
No, it's not automatic, but he's the favorite. There's a few other sort of high-ranking. The funny thing is Israel took out all their generals, which is quite funny, because they had, Mossad had infiltrated the IRGC at the very highest levels. So they killed all the top generals and they killed the previous president, Raisi. So they barely don't have anyone left, let's be honest. And it's funny because the Islamic Republic hasn't managed to kill one Mossad agent or one, IDF agent. So it just shows you that how incompetent the Islamic Republic really is. So I don't really know what's going to happen. I think the Islamic Republic will most likely die with the death of Khomeini, or once he dies, I think what will happen is that there's going to be an internal revolution within the Islamic Republic. They realize that, at the end of the day, it didn't work out. Maybe they will do a twist from within and change everything from within, and maybe some smarter people, maybe they will become a bit more open, a bit more lenient. These are the two options. I purely do not think the Islamic Republic can go on in the way it is, because the people hate them. There's a water crisis now. There has been inflation for many years. People don't have gas and electricity. It's one of the richest countries in the world, second oil producer in the world. You don't have gas and electricity. So people are sick of them. So they cannot go on in the format they are in now. So either it's going to be an internal change, which to be honest, I find very unlikely, because I just don't think that I can expect behavior change from this regime. But maybe Khamenei needs to die, and maybe that whole old guard needs to kind of collapse and die out, and then the new guard can be more innovative. But personally speaking, I want the whole system overthrown.
I've just got one question, but before I ask you that, because I know the comments are going to circulate, particularly those of the woke left.
Yeah.
This is not just I've not just brought you on the show because it's like having a chat with someone down the pub who's got these opinions on certain things. You have obviously the expertise, the lived experience, and you have the knowledge about this. So I just want people to please take that into consideration. I know some won't. Before you leave comments, it's not just two far right thugs having a chat. We're coming from a place of
it's pretty
intellect.
Self-explanatory. Anyone that has two brain cells to rub together can see this.
Well, yeah, exactly. but I just wanted to highlight that. So you've got to be pandering to these people with this next question.
Exactly.
So what for people who are maybe still disillusioned with the Islamic Republic, and they maybe don't see parallels translating over here in the UK, what advice or message could you give to those people?
To the people that support the Islamic Republic in the
Not
UK.
necessarily support it, but maybe are just disillusioned and think, I'm ignorant to it. I'm not going to worry about that.
Oh, well, the thing is, I think, first of all, you should worry about your own country. I agree. You should worry about your own country first and foremost. However, the instability that the Islamic Republic has caused has led to tens of millions of refugees coming to Western Europe and destabilizing your societies. And soon, with time, they will take over your societies, and the exact same thing that happened in my society will happen in your... Don't think it can't happen to you. So I think, we need to win the ideological battle. And what am I doing now is basically fighting the ideological battle. Why do I criticize Islam? The ideological battle. Why do I criticize the Islamic Republic? The PR war. We need to win the PR war, the war of ideas. We just cannot simply let the other side win and radicalize. Because as soon as your youth are radicalized, and it's happened to a very large extent already, unfortunately, but you cannot because these are the next generation of people. And if you have people like that, it's only a short period of time before you have Sharia in the UK. I don't think that's a joke. I'm being serious. The way the things are going now, trajectory-wise, if we don't stop it, it's going to be Sharia in the UK 20 years from now, max.
There was all uproar recently with a job advert. You might have seen it was doing the rounds on the internet, which then got taken down, which was quite amusing. Yeah. But and it was for a Sharia law administrator. And it would come from the government's job page after them saying, "Oh no, don't worry, there's no Sharia law. We won't be implementing that." And then they're advertising roles for it. So I think maybe it started to seep through already, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. That's just the proof in the pudding.
Yeah. Have
And
you?
I saw another thing. Sorry, I saw another thing the other day. I think it was in Kensington and Chelsea Hospital in London, one of the most prestigious areas. There's a mosque inside the hospital, and you can hear Allahu Akbar Allah in the fucking hospital.
Wow.
And it's like prayer room, and there are excuses. Well, majority of our doctors are Muslims, so you have to have a mosque, but you don't have a church, you don't have a synagogue. So you have a mosque for Friday, like prayers, and you can like imagine you're a patient, you're trying to sleep, you hear Allahu Akbar. Like, how crazy is that? We're like, what the fuck?
I don't think that's been thought through, but then again,
Yeah.
most of the institution in the UK is not thought through. Is there any message before we kind of signpost to how people can get in touch with you? Is there any messages or any further things you want to discuss or put out there?
I just want to say to the wider audience, be original, be an original character. Think for yourself, have critical thinking. Don't follow things just because other people are telling you to follow that thing. Do your own research, make your own mind up, be unapologetic, stand up for something, speak the truth. Just be courageous. They say if you want adventure in life, tell the truth. And that way you'll have an adventure. And it takes a lot of courage to tell the truth. And unfortunately, a lot of people are happy just to blend in and to be accepted and to be liked. I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to be respected. And I think people that are here to be liked end up being liked by nobody. And people that are here to be respected and actually are original are the ones that make a change. That's what I think.
You definitely need to progress into politics, mate, because that was superb. And it's that age-old thing of like, people are going to judge you irrespective of what your views are.
Yeah.
And the more, let's say, the more success you make of yourself, the more you're going to get judged. Anyway, exactly. Yeah, I completely subscribe to that. Quickly, obviously, it'll all be in the description anyway, but what's your preference for people contacting you or
So I'm Younes Sadaghiani, obviously. I am on YouTube, X, TikTok, and Instagram. I'm biggest on Instagram. So my Instagram is Younes Rocks, YOUNESSROCKS. Same with my YouTube, but then my normal X is like Younes Sadaghiani or Younes Rocks. Same with my YouTube and TikTok. Just put Younes. I'll probably come up, but I'm sure they'll
be in the description. Obviously, if they've seen the trailer for this, that'll be on Instagram as well. So,
exactly.
Have you got any projects that you want to divulge that you've got lined up? Or
so I've got a couple of projects actually. So, but these are not confirmed yet. These are provisional projects. I'm probably going to be going to Las Vegas in 12th of November. Again, is for the solidarity of Iranian people and the Jewish people and Israel and stuff. I'm again going to October, end of October, the last 2 weeks of October. I'm going with 2 different companies, most likely, to Israel. And one of them is called the Cyrus Accords, which is huge. Actually, it's like Abraham Accords, but Cyrus Accords. So what they're doing with like Iranian influences that have expertise, and what they're trying to do is how to overthrow the regime and how to normalize relations with Iran, which is going to be huge. If that happens, we're probably going to have world peace for the foreseeable future. So that, Israel, Las Vegas, and guys, I sell properties in Dubai. So that's one of the things I do. I sell off-prime properties, but we're not going to get into that too much. And I'm going to be doing a lot of podcasts. I'm doing a podcast this Friday actually with someone else back in London. I'm going to see Tommy Robinson. Yeah, that's the one I forgot. Tommy Robinson next week. I'm going to be doing a podcast with Tommy Robinson and my friend Rafai Pinsky, and I think it's going to be released just after this podcast. Yeah, so it will be good. I'm going to be at the rally on the 13th of September, and yeah, that's it, man.
All the more reason to keep tabs on Younes, because what a plethora of events and projects you've got lined up there, mate. Younes, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, mate. It's been really insightful. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. Obviously, I've been down the rabbit hole, as it were, and it's not disappointed, mate. You're a political powerhouse and a wealth of knowledge, and it's been a pleasure having you on, mate. I really mean that, and I suspect big things for you, pal. Cheers. Genuinely. I've been Daniel Hodges. This has, of course, been Younes Sadaghiani, and you've been listening to the Hodge-Cast. Take it easy. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we believe you can definitely take something away from today's guest. We couldn't attract guests such as this without a solid fan base. The best way we can grow this is through subscriptions. So, If you haven't already done so, can I please ask you hit that subscribe button and help us continue to put out content for you all to enjoy. Until next time.